Welcome back to the Wild Ones podcast, the show where we chat about bike stuff. I'm Jimmy, and this week I am joined by producer Emily and Francis CADE.
Hello.
Hi.
Today's episode is supported by our friends at Garmin, so thanks to them for helping us make shows like this for you for free. How are you guys?
Yeah, good. I think that Jimmy might be a little bit sad this week.
Sad? What do you mean? I'm actually feeling quite good after the last week of rambunctiousness.
Okay. Well, just the only reason I say that is because the other night when we were sat talking, you said that you were sad because you don't like your name anymore.
Is no conversation safe anymore? Am I not able to just like freely speak?
You don't like your name? What?
Well, it's not
Which
that.
name?
Oh, for God's
Your real name?
Are we actually doing this
Does the
conversation?
podcast know your real name?
So, I feel like I've trapped myself into being known as Jimmy, and there's nothing I can do about it now.
When we first started working together, you were like, I'm going to be called James on emails. And it lasted a day.
And that was 2 years ago. So I've been fighting, I think, for quite some time to return to my birth name of James. And I don't even know why. And I'm not even entirely sure why. I like things to change, I think.
I think it's because you're a natural contrarian. And so you chose Jimmy probably because your name was James and you wanted it to be something different. And now everyone accepts you as Jimmy. You now want to change it again.
James is ridiculous. It's like plural, isn't it? It should be Jame. You're just one Jame.
Am I one, though?
You, James, Thomas, also one Jame. If you were together, oh, there's the James.
Could I just say, Mr. Francis, this also applies to your name. Your name should be Franny.
Which is what you call me. I've accepted it. I never argue when people call me different names, which is most of the time.
It's not even Franny, is it?
It's Fran.
Francie.
It gets Francie. That is good. I will accept that name.
I'm going to start calling you Francie.
I want to start calling you Jim Shady.
Hi, my name is
Jim Shady.
I've had Jim Lad in the past, which I think is Robin Hood. I think it's from Robin Hood.
Jim Lad, Jim Set.
What would you like us to call you for this episode?
Jameson Nicholsonson.
Jermaine.
Jermaine. No, I can't see you as anything other than Jimmy, unfortunately. I don't see you as a James.
You look like a Jimmy, and that's why it can't be changed.
Shall we
Yes, please.
get into some news?
First up, we need to talk about Specialized's new racing shoes. They've just released an update of their S-Works Aries shoe. The original shoe cost £375. Now, Specialized claim the new version, the Aries 2, very good name for that, will give you 7 watts more power than the originals. So they are charging £104 more for them, which is £14.85 per watt.
It's given to you. It comes out of the box when you open it.
Guaranteed.
So that makes them £479 in total, which is over $600. How are they getting you more watts, I hear you ask? Well, Specialized claims the wattage gain is due to improved lactate threshold because the shoes have better footbeds, cleat position, and internal wedges. I'll be honest, that sounds like a load of absolute guff, doesn't it?
Well, they're race shoes, and their marketing says, when you're racing, every second counts. So if you're someone who needs a second, then maybe you'll be interested in £14.85 per watt.
7 watts is huge. That seems odd that they could claim that a shoe would give you a 7% watt gain over the previous shoe.
Yeah. Wattage gain due to improved lactate threshold. Surely that is such a personal measurement. How do you extrapolate that?
That's a mad claim. I want to look at the wording on the website. Is it really just that? Is that what they say?
I think that was in a press release that came to. Also in the press release, they talked about how much all of the pros love them. And apparently Primož Roglič was quoted as saying that the shoes make his bike jump when he pushes the pedals.
Well, that's not what you want, is it?
Well, no, maybe that's why he always comes off his bike. I don't know.
I'm sure all of the Specialized riders that are paid to use them love them. I'm sure it's a really good shoe. Historically, they've always made really good shoes. I'm not going to say that I hate this feature of them, but Bike Fit James definitely hates this feature of them. They're the only non-neutral shoe on the market, or one of the very few, and pretty much their whole range in the performance space has a varus tilt, so it tilts your foot essentially built into the shoe, and they don't usually make that much of a song and dance about it, but in their marketing they make it sound like it's a good thing. James would argue it is not, and he, in his Bike Fits, has to correct it by putting another wedge in to neutralize it, which I think perhaps comes in the box, but he thinks it causes more issues than it solves, and most people don't need that. And if they do need any wedging, it should be carried out by a bike fitter, not by the shoe manufacturer.
I
think
actually
makes sense.
think that a lot of cycling shoes are way too complicated, and they're trying to make people's feet go into weird positions. And I was actually looking at shoes yesterday because I've decided I'm going to buy some new cycling shoes. And I used to have a pair of these a long time ago, and I'm going to go back to them, I think, because they're super wide. It's just a platform. It's like a shoe that is like basic, which then allows you to use whatever insoles you want. You can mold them. And the shoe I'm thinking of is Bont. I think I'm going to get some Bonts.
You could also get the rollerblades. That's where they came from.
Bont?
Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah. It's like speed skates. You should get some. Imagine how fast you'd be.
Well, I did used to have a pair of weird, small, independent shoes that were not weird, but inline speed skaters. That's what they're called.
You used to sell them at a bike shop I worked at. The Vapor. They still do that? Bont Vapor?
Yeah, I think so.
Bont Riot.
Yeah.
We sold a lot of them.
They've got loads of versions of that stuff now.
And then I think that whoever the distributor was in the UK stopped selling them. So they kind of disappeared from all the shops.
Yeah, they did go for a while. Because Wigo made them like super... Because they had like an aero one with like a cover on the top, which was always super cool. And you can have... Oh, no, you could get
Ahead
it.
of its time. 7 watts. 7 watts, apparently.
it was something like 600 or 700 quid even like a decade ago.
Yeah.
And I remember wanting it so bad, but just couldn't get around to buying it.
Back to the Specialized shoe. The new one looks less like a weird boot than the old one, which is a good thing.
You know, as you said, Specialized have made some good shoes plenty of times. There's nothing wrong with the shoes. I'm sure they're great for all-out performance. They have an interesting aesthetic. It almost looks like a trainer, doesn't it? It's like they're almost getting into the kind of Yeezy space of like making something that's unusual, and therefore some people will probably think it's super cool.
Yeah, I don't know. 479 quid, it's not for me.
Well, I don't know. It isn't for me. I do agree with you in that, but I guess the space where I am comfortable with it is if I have the money to buy more comfort, then I would do that.
I find it's the shoes and helmets. I've ended up defaulting to lower end models that just fit really well.
Yeah.
And I think particularly with shoes, the best shoe is the one that fits. And that shoe, as many watts as it saves you, is not going to fit everyone optimally. It's why Lake have 1 million pairs of shoes in their range, and it's really confusing and really badly named. Sorry, Lake. It's complicated. If you find the right one, it's like,
Yep. I feel like I'm still looking for the one.
Yeah.
But that's why I feel like you can't really say that you're going to get 7 watts more power.
If you're really uncomfortable in them, you're not going to get that.
Yeah, due to
watt saving.
improved lactate threshold. They're comparing their own shoes. They're not saying 7 watts more power over any other shoe.
Yeah.
But surely...
It's nonsense marketing. I would literally ignore that. If you're looking to buy a pair of shoes, just try them. Ideally ride in them. That's a problem as well, though, isn't it? It's not like a test saddle you can just take. You're going to be wearing out the shoe, but at least an indoor ride and then send them back. I know you were talking about that with the Bonts. Is that an option for most people? I can see why so many people have issues. And on top of that, then we have the insole issue where most people are probably going to need better insoles than the ones that come in a pair of cycling shoes. They're all flimsy and don't offer any arch support whatsoever.
It is bonkers how little arch support there are in cycling
They
shoes.
are pretty much useless.
It's the same in normal shoes as well, though.
It seems worse, though, in... Like, you know, like a proper, more formal shoe will typically have some kind of arch support in it, whereas cycling shoes just kind of... They tend to have weird last shapes, and they're like twisted in weird ways, and they force your foot into weird positions and assume that everyone has the narrowest feet in the world. I just find cycling shoe design just so odd.
Do you know what? I am going to, now that I've ragged on Specialized a little bit, I'm going to give them some plus points. The shoes come in small sizes. They go down to size 3. Love to see it. And actually, as I have been investigating more smaller bikes, they go down to a size 44 in a lot of their frames. 44 is small. Me and Jimmy went into a Specialized dealership in Durham and to have a look at what size their 44 was. It is tiny. Mm-hmm. I still don't think it's right. I think it's maybe almost a little bit small, and then they do a 48. I haven't seen that one yet. Am I going to get one? Probably not. But they do small sizes. And another plus point for Specialized is the man that we spoke to in that dealership spoke to me like I knew what I was talking about when it comes to bikes. And although that sounds like a really obvious thing to say, I have definitely been into bike shops before where I have not experienced that. So, you know, he was talking to a woman and did not just necessarily assume that I was buying my first bike or I didn't know what I was talking about. So I appreciated that.
I think that's more of a testament to Infinity Cycles than it is to Specialized.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, but...
Was that where we bought the alley?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
they were nice in there.
Yeah, they were great, yeah.
The problem is with that really small bike that we had a look at, though, is although the reach is great, the stack height is so small that it still doesn't work for you. So it's still, even though it's a tiny bike, it still isn't a bike that you can ride.
Yeah, that's the problem that I'm coming up against, I think. That I guess I was watching Bike Fit James videos, and he was saying that especially with women, your torso tends to be a lot shorter than your legs. And I think actually that's what I'm finding the problem with, is just getting the reach correct without it being to the right proportions everywhere else. So
yeah, because your saddle height is only a couple of centimeters shorter than mine, but your reach requirements are significantly less than mine.
yeah, but never mind.
Get you on the jig.
This is it. Yeah. Maybe eventually. I'm plugging away on my my bikes at the moment. I'm upping my time on the turbo, getting ready for spring, winter miles, summer smiles, all of that bullshit. I'm doing it. I'm on the program. Mr. Demotivator's program.
Where on the program? On the program means you're on the gear.
Well, yeah, that too. Every little helps, isn't it?
Why not? There's no UCI here, mate.
Yeah, exactly. What are they going to do? Fine me?
There is the police.
Don't care about that kind of thing, do they? Meanwhile, UAE Classics rider Isaac Del Toro was fined the equivalent of £175 this week for damaging the image of the sport. Do you know what he did?
Did he have a frame pump on his bike just in case he got a puncture?
No.
Because they get punctures all the time, don't they?
What, do you think that would be damaging the image of the sport?
Well, it's definitely banned, isn't it? Because it could fly away.
In the eyes of the UCI, yes. In the eyes of me, absolutely not. It improves the image of the sport.
He crossed the finish line of Milano Torino with his top unzipped.
Oh.
The top of his skin suit.
Oh, okay.
Which apparently is because the zip on it broke.
I feel like there's a rule in triathlon which is kind of similar. I think the rule in triathlon is you're not allowed to show your nipples. I'm
assuming it's also to do with if you're crossing the line with your jersey unzipped, then the sponsors aren't getting their airtime.
But UCI wouldn't care about that. I think it'll be to do with like decency, and there'll be like an old-fashioned rule about not showing off loads of flesh. I reckon it'll be.
It's obviously blown up and everyone's talking about it, and all the meme pages on Instagram are having a field day with it as well. But 175 quid to damage the image of the sport is not really that much money, is it?
It isn't.
It's like the fine involved with we went to Thailand and rode up the highest point in Thailand, and you're not allowed to ride down, but the fine is like 10 quid. So I asked the army man at the bottom, I was like, could we just pay the 10 quid? He's like, no, we can't do that. It was worth an ask, right? Can I just pay you now and just ride down? No. It turns out no.
Did you ride down?
No.
For legal reasons, no.
No, we didn't. We actually got in a truck.
Oh, okay.
Of cool. Some tourists who then took us all the way down to the bottom and then just carried on driving past the checkpoint. But we were too polite because we're English to tell them to stop. So we ended up driving all the way miles. It's just...
So do you think that the UCI should be fined for damaging the image of cycling?
Oh, cutting question.
That's a very good point. Yes.
I can't concentrate because I really need a drink and I want to open this, but it's going to make a noise.
You
Oh no,
already
do
made
it.
a
Do
noise.
it. No, do it on camera.
Yeah,
as
okay,
well.
so everyone stop speaking for a second. So I can open my can of drink, take a drink.
Oh, that was a rubbish one. I wanted like a Diet Coke.
Okay, sorry, continue.
That was the end of the story,
Okay.
I think. UCI sometimes not very nice. I know some people from the UCI are actually really funny.
Okay, next, loads of you wrote in about this story. Route planning app Komoot has just been sold to a company infamous for buying up well-known tech firms and then laying off most of the staff. The company they sold to is called Bending Spoons. They're Italian, and they've historically bought firms including WeTransfer, Evernote, and Brightcove. And in all of those cases, they've laid off lots of staff. 75% in WeTransfer's case, and all of them in Evernote's case.
That is mad, isn't it? How can you lay off 100% of staff?
I think they'd basically just absorbed it into their own
Well, yeah,
operations.
it shows how bonkers tech is, isn't it? That you can buy a business and just get rid of everyone.
Yeah, so you can see why this news has arrived like a punch in the gut for many of the 150 people currently working at Komoot. There's been reports circulating online that deep cuts are likely, though nothing has been officially confirmed. But in the days before the announcement, Komoot appears to have still been advertising jobs on LinkedIn, and these were pulled down following the acquisition, so it's led to more uncertainty over the future. Meanwhile, a statement from co-founder Marcus Hallerman did little to reassure staff, instead focusing on the growth for the company. He said, "For 17 years, we've been on a mission to make outdoor adventures accessible to all. From humble beginnings in our student room, we've built Komoot from the ground up to over 45 million users, making it Europe's leading outdoor platform. However, what got us here won't take us to the next level. Scaling a company requires a different mindset and skill set than building one. That's why we believe Bending Spoons, with its unique expertise in driving innovation and scaling platforms, is the perfect partner to lead Komoot into the future."
I have to say, Komoot is a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. So
Yeah.
45 million users is absolutely hench. But I guess if I was to read between the lines, scaling a company requires a different mindset and skill set than building one. I think, so it's very typical in tech startup culture to bring in investment, have enough capital available to build your tech and grow it aggressively, but quite often it is not profitable. So I think probably what they are actually saying here is they're not profitable and therefore they need to do something. Therefore, they have brought in Bending Spoon in the hope that they can actually turn the business to a profit, but probably knowing that that means that they will do some pretty aggressive things to be able to achieve that. And that sucks.
I can see why they want to grow. Potentially, there are more users that Komoot has because so much of it is user-generated. It's not user-generated content. What does that mean? What's that from?
Instagram.
User contributed?
I know what you mean. Ultimately, people contribute to...
The data integrity.
The data, yeah, exactly. So the maps, they use a different map provider, and then the more users they have, you can report if roads are gravel and things like that, and then it's in there, and you can put pictures from certain highlights and that kind of thing, and hotels and where everything is, and you can see where other people have ridden. So the more people using it, the better the product gets. So I guess that could be an argument for why they want to grow it, but it's obviously more like Jimmy said. Unfortunately, probably is.
Because obviously we've seen changes in the last couple of weeks as well, where they've added a subscription model.
There was always a subscription model on Komoot. Komoot Premium has existed for ages, and it just gave you more functionality. Whereas now, what it was, the news last week was that in order to sync the routes, so it's more of an aggressive and more expensive
Originally,
system.
When I first used it, there wasn't a subscription option. You paid 20 quid.
For maps.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Komoot Premium came in, which is when they added like hotels and
okay.
multi-day route planning. So you add things to a big collection, and you can then look at other people's connection, and it became more social media-y, but that bit was always free. So you were paying for Komoot Premium for a while.
So is it likely that we'll see it clamp down further and further into more paid for?
Charging more.
That is the model that we've seen with Strava, for sure. Perhaps. Obviously, it absolutely sucks for all those people if they are going to get made redundant. But I'm sure they're very, very good at their jobs, and there will be companies, I would imagine, that are going to want to lap them all up.
Every time I've dealt with them, they've been so good. And they've really supported trips and endeavors in the past, like riding across America, trying to raise money for charity. We're like, here's what we're doing. We really need some money to make it happen. They are like, yeah. And then they are supporting you through it as well, like making sure the routes work for you and all that kind of stuff. They're just good.
Just for complete clarity, if you are just a user of Komoot, you can't contact them and they'll give you money to go and ride your bike.
Probably not. But maybe if the idea is good enough.
I would agree that they seem to be a business that legitimately care about being outdoors and enjoying life outside.
Yeah, totally. Well, I actually spoke to a former employee this week who was also very sad about the news on behalf of his former colleagues. And he sort of said that he was worried that the company's mission of making outdoor adventures accessible to all would be sidelined if the focus is purely on scalability and profit going forward. Komoot has in the past done things like adding warnings for wheelchair users if there's stairs on a route that they've planned, or they have also worked closely with nature conservation groups and national parks to add warnings when users enter protected areas. And the source that we spoke to said that we did this because we cared, not because it made us money. So at this stage, there's nothing to suggest that any of these features will be deprioritized. We don't know. We haven't got a crystal ball. But I think there is maybe a low-level rumbling concern generally that if priorities and ethos changes and the staff who are knowledgeable not only about tech but also about the outdoors are lost, then the product will eventually become a different thing. Shall we do Fluff Up of the Week?
Right, so a while ago, I went to Core Bike and I picked up this thing that I was like, oh, that'll be a nice present for Francis. And it's been sitting in my house ever since. And I finally remembered to bring it in.
This is a giant poster with how many mech hangers on it?
So
Workshop essentials.
So it's one of Madison's brands, M-Part, and they do lots of like parts and stuff for bike shops. And they had this on the wall, and I was like, can I get one of those? They're like, yeah, no bother. What they probably didn't realize is that my intention was to use it as a tool for why the bike industry is absolutely bonkers. So this is a poster which says Workshop Essentials gear hangers. So literally mech hangers for your bike. And they currently sell under their essentials, I've just very quickly tallied them up, so it might not be exactly right, approximately 240 hangers as workshop essentials.
None of our workshop doesn't have any of these essentials.
It doesn't.
And it doesn't have any of the more essentials which are on the back. The bearings.
It must be impossible to be a bike shop.
Well, I guess we had Bike Shop Nick from Backyard on whenever it was, and he was talking about the universal mech hanger and why I feel like it was SRAM who sort of brought it in and tried to convince everyone it's a good idea. I mean, it kind of seemed like it is a good idea.
I think it is a good idea, but hasn't been executed
fine.
as well as it could have been.
There definitely needs to be something to unify all of this stuff, isn't it? Like, there's so many bearing options. And, you know, and surely some of it is the manufacturers that are causing the problem. Like, I feel like everyone likes the idea that you have to buy their one rather than being able to buy a generic cheap one. But yeah, it's wild. So Fluff Up of the Week goes to the bike industry for making too many options.
Fine, okay. Well, it's time for some more unpopular opinions. I'm going to read out some cycling hot takes, we'll debate them, and then decide if we agree or disagree. First one says, my name's Jude and here's my unpopular opinion. Any tyre bigger than 25mm is too big. I'm only 20, but started road cycling when I was about 8, so 23 to 25mm is what I learned on. I just don't get the point in owning a beautifully responsive, stiff carbon bike, then ruining the feel with mushy great tyres. I ride 4 times a week on beautifully maintained New Forest roads, but rarely more than 100k, and I'm pretty flexible, so comfort-limited performance isn't an issue for me. A fast bike is meant to feel like a racehorse or an F1 car when you get on it, flighty and begging to be ridden spiritedly. I'm in love with that feeling, and part of it is the lively road feedback and instant out-of-the-saddle responsiveness you can only get from sub 25mm tyres. I'll take the potential rolling resistance and grip costs because it makes me want to ride my bike more. That is an unpopular opinion, I think.
Very unpopular because most people don't have smooth roads. They're not young. They're not flexible.
Oh, to be young again.
I do get what you say. You know, when we jumped on the bike that we can't talk about the other day and we both went, it's that kind of feeling. I get the feeling.
Yeah.
And especially after riding my gravel bike to work back and forth for ages. And then you jump on a real, like, full-on race bike. It's like, that is cool.
But from my experience of having ridden a hideously huge amount of bikes and varieties is that isn't a condition of the tyre that he's using. You can absolutely get that feeling on a 32mm tyre.
Or you put more air in the tyres.
Well, I don't even think it's about necessarily firmness. I think it can still be comfortable and still feel like really fast and aggressive and twitchy and exciting. And I think a lot of it is actually geometry.
Weight distribution.
The tyre does make a difference. You know, if you're going to put 40mm tyres, they're going to feel a bit
Well, because then whenever you get out of
sluggish.
the saddle, if they're not inflated super hard, the lateral movement is torsional.
You surely don't think that a 30 or a 32mm tyre on a race bike is an issue.
No.
It still feels absolutely lush,
Yeah.
but it takes that like buzz out of it a bit.
Yeah. And admittedly, though, the roads he's talking about are different to the roads that we have here.
Oh yeah.
It's a different, like, there's more snow, so everything's a bit rougher.
If it is buttery smooth tarmac, you could ride wooden wheels and you'd still have a good time.
Look, on the track, they still run super narrow.
Yeah.
Because it is faster if you are on a surface that's that smooth. Still running tubs on the track.
I think his opinion is unpopular. And I think that he is in a specific scenario that means that he doesn't need bigger tyres, and that is totally fine.
And his last sentence saves it all.
It makes me want to ride my bike more.
So do it.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
But as long as you don't come to my house and like steal all my fat tyres and leave me with skinny ones.
And also, in approximately 20 years' time, you're going to want those big tyres.
I remember when I was 20 and older people used to say stuff like, oh, just wait till you get to my age. And I thought, f*** off.
I feel, for some reason, my brain is going, what if it goes back the other way again? You know how jeans become skinny and then they go wide and then they go skinny again?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe at some point, they have to now go outwards at the knees but be skinny at the bottom.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll happen. Anyway, this is off topic, but maybe tyres will go skinny again.
Trends do cycle, don't they?
Whey!
No pun intended, but maybe they will. I will reject them. I feel like when we had Bike Shop Nick on, he was talking about the idea of you can feel like you're on a fast bike if it's very wobbly and very jarry and twitchy and stuff, because it's like the equivalent of being in an old school racing Mini or something like that, where it's all over the place.
Have either of you been in an original Mini?
Yes.
No.
They go about 15 miles an hour and it feels about 100.
The first ever mountain bike trip that I went on was with
Oh, I know this.
two of my friends in school. So three boys, 3 mountain bikes, back when mountain bikes were very heavy, on an old purple Mini with a top speed of 50 mile an hour all the way to Coed Brennan and Afan in Wales from London. So it was a long drive. Towards the end, when we're getting near the campsite, we had to get out of the car and push it. That's how weak the Mini was.
Yep.
We had lots of people looking at us through the windows.
With the 4 gears, that would have been squealing.
Yeah. And the speedo broke halfway as well. Phew.
But to be fair to him, he doesn't say he's trying to go fast. He says he likes the feel of it and it gets him on his bike more. So
Yeah.
you do you.
Yeah,
do it.
keep doing what you're doing. You also write very well, Jude. I definitely couldn't write that well when I was 20. It would have lots of expletives in and not be structurally correct. Well done.
Do you want to read the next one, Francis?
Daniel says, unpopular opinion. When discussing bike prices, especially budget-friendly options, review channels like podcasts, YouTubers, and websites almost always cite the RRP. I think he's talking about us. The wild ones have done a great job highlighting budget bikes, but that's only part of the picture, particularly in the mid-range. Take the TCR, for example. I'm a huge fan of the TCR, and when it's new TCR time, I've had 3 in 11 years. Love TCRs. I know I can knock off at least 20% of the RRP later in the year. If you're patient and willing to wait for the annual model cycle, you can score some incredible deals. Canyon operates similarly with near constant sales. Here's a point. For mid-range bikes, because let's be honest, someone dropping 12K won't care, reviews almost always include a realistic sale price based on historical discounts. For riders like me who are happy to wait, knowing the true price makes all the difference. Case in point, I grabbed myself a TCR Advanced Pro 1 for $4,500, down from $5,999. That's a massive discount and pretty standard for Giant.
Why do I feel like you've just read out a secret advert for Giant?
We've been had.
Big bike.
Oh, do you think there will come a point where like clever PR people will guerrilla market their way into our unpopular
Yes,
opinions?
it was about 30 seconds ago.
So I think we typically stick to RRPs because that is officially how much something costs.
Wait, can I just defend my position? I'm in charge of nearly all of the video scripts, and I almost always say this can be found online. If the price is different, this can be found online right now for da-da-da-da-da.
I think the problem is when you're looking at new bikes, they haven't even gone on sale yet.
It hasn't happened yet because the video is going out on the embargo day usually. So we're lucky to even get a price. What did we do one recently?
God, yeah.
It's like one day before the video goes out. And it's like, well, we can't change it now. So we have to do like annotations and stuff, and you can't refilm. But that's another story. What I'm saying is I often put the actual price if it's available online for a different thing. It's just not usually the case.
But how reliable is that? Because
it's a nightmare. And then if you're in Americans see a completely different price to us, and if you're in a different country, it just basically the RRP, at least it's constant.
well, this is it. Because Daniel is saying that he knows he can basically get something at least 20% off RRP. So use the RRP and know that you can get something 20% cheaper. I guess the problem that we have, it is a good point. You can get stuff cheaper if you wait. But RRP isn't a perfect method, but at least it's accurate and it's measurable. Like, we are speaking to a global audience, so it's very, very variable. It depends on stock levels. All sizes might not be available by the time the sale comes around. So it's when you're talking about reliable or realistic pricing, I don't think that going off one sale price or an average of sale prices even makes a difference. Like if you think like what the sale prices were during COVID, how do you take that out of your average? Do you look then before COVID, which was a long time ago? And I'm not sure it quite works, does it?
You're also missing the fact that videos are filmed and then there is a period of time before they're posted.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's 3 weeks, that's a month. Sometimes that's 6 months, depending on the thing. And then also there's a period of time between video being posted and someone watching it. So it's just completely irrelevant and almost can't be done. I think there was a bit that I filmed about one of the more affordable Canyon bikes, and there was a deal on their website, and I filmed a section, and by the time I was editing it 3 days later, the deal was gone and the bike was gone, because obviously they're reducing the price to sell it, and successfully. So you can see why it's just a total nightmare.
I generally find when something is discounted that either
People buy it.
the sizes that are available are the smallest and the biggest, or just the middle ones. It's very rare that there's actually a full array of sizing when something's discounted as well.
Just bought a new jumper from Uniqlo last night on the train.
Oh, yeah?
£14.
Why are they selling them on the train?
What is they come around with anything from the trolley, dears? And they sell the chocolate frog with Dumbledore inside
And a Uniqlo jumper.
Uniqlo jumper. Yeah. Which now, the more I think about it, the more it looks like a prison jumper. Because I also watched that Adolescence on Netflix. I was like, that kid's jumper is literally the jumper I just bought.
Black and white stripes? Do you mean, is it a Geordie jumper?
It comes with a mask, like a swagger bag. Wait, no, they wouldn't have that in prison. They'd have a ball and chain.
Is that why the Geordie kit's black and white stripes? Because they're all thugs up here.
You said
No
you felt
comment.
like a thug when you were wearing that Newcastle shirt around town.
That's just because it's a football shirt.
You're like, I kind of feel self-conscious. I want to fight someone.
Well, it's equally expecting someone to want to fight you. It's like, oh, there's a football thug. Let's have a fight.
So there's consensual fights good sometimes, though, isn't it?
Shall we have a fight? Oh, yes, please, sir. Oh, jolly good.
Where were we?
We've got a podcast to do.
RRPs or something.
Sales. Yeah. It is interesting though. There are definitely brands that you can bank on will always have sales. This was the problem that Rafa got into, taking it outside of the bike specific product line. Rafa basically found that everyone was waiting until their sales come. So then actually do you end up artificially increasing your RRPs knowing that you will always sell the majority at a discount?
Well, the other apparel brand in that space is Lacoste, where pretty much there was a point where the only people that had bought Lacoste stuff had done so with their £50 Strava discount.
Yeah, true. But back to the original point, yeah, RRP is definitely not a perfect method. However, I think in the practicality of trying to give some sort of sale guideline is also incredibly difficult.
Yeah. We also have discussions about what currency to use. And I apologize to any of the audience because sometimes we only have one.
Yeah,
we're only given one. The information is like currently there's about 9,500 euros. That's the only information we have.
And it's not always a straight conversion.
No, it's never straight conversion. In fact, I've just found out today it's more pounds.
Not always for some brands. So because of Brexit and because of the current US tariff situation, we are going to see much more difference between the different regions. So I think a lot of bikes are generally brought into Europe and then distributed from Europe. So Euro prices are probably going to be the best value for bikes going forward into the future. UK prices will probably be elevated because of all of the bringing it in post-Brexit. And then with tariffs also then in the US, we might see US pricing going up for stuff that isn't domestic US, which is practically everything.
Yeah, I feel like we had an email off someone in Australia after we did our segment on that Boardman bike, and we talked about cubes as well being really good value. And I can't remember the brand name that they named, but they said, why aren't you talking about this bike? It's got this and it's this and it's this. And it seemed like a really cheap deal.
It was a Rose.
Rose. Was it Rose?
Oh, no, maybe not.
No, I
Rose
don't think
is
it
German.
was. It wasn't. And I had a look and it was not cheap here as well. So that is the problem with it, that depending on what territory you're in, it might make sense to... I'm assuming, this is completely an assumption, but I'm assuming because Australia is close to Asia, there's probably going to be less cost to transport in bikes straight from Asia than it would be, for example, for them to come here, which is why they cost a lot more.
Some of it is just straight transport cost as well, yeah.
So that's the reason that we didn't mention whatever that brand was. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, it's just difficult, isn't it?
Yes.
And that is why.
Okay, Albert says, unpopular opinion, road cycling would be more popular if the UCI mandated regular shorts and looser jerseys with some padding instead of thin spandex. Most non-cyclists don't like how spandex looks. There would be more protection from crashes and road rash, and it might create space for new safety sensors or cooling technologies.
So, I got two opinions. One, I like his suggestion because I think it would be fun. But two, the reality is, surely most people that ride bikes don't look at pros and go, well, that's the only option for me. Like, surely most people get into cycling because maybe they learnt to ride as a kid and it was on a flat bar hybrid or an old mountain bike or something or other. And when you did that, you just did it wearing anything. You can ride whatever you want. You don't even need to ride. You don't even need to use specific cycling clothing or kit. You can just ride a bike however you want. And that can also be a road bike in a road setting. You probably wouldn't want to race in that way, and you probably wouldn't be allowed to because of potential safety issues, which is a whole nother conversation. But ride whatever you want. And I think a lot of people know that.
I would imagine most non-cyclists encountering cyclists in their everyday life probably don't look like us in tight lycra and stuff. I think the people you see, especially if you live in a busier town or city, you're probably seeing more commuter style cyclists wearing normal clothes. That's what I see more of around.
Yeah.
You actually don't up here though. If you actually think about it, so in the Northeast, not that many people commute by bike. So when you do see a cyclist, it's either on the off-road tracks and it is that type of person, and it's just someone that's got a leisurely Sunday fitness ride with their family or whatever, or it's roadies. Whereas in London, nearly everyone you see is a commuter, and it's a completely different thing. I think it just depends a lot on where you are and where you live and the things that are around you. I can see why some people only see Lycra stuff.
I'm all about flappy jersey. I can't figure out how to do baggy shorts that are as comfortable as bib shorts. I think bib shorts that stay in the same place is god tier. And unfortunately, there is no solution that I've found and I've tried like padded non-bib short, like short shorts, mountain bike shorts, all of that stuff. It's not the same.
Yeah.
As soon as you're doing like over half an hour, bib shorts the one.
You need a better saddle line, I think.
Want big with loads of squish?
No, it doesn't need loads of squish. It just needs to fit you better.
Yeah.
I can ride my Calvin Klein Y fronts with jean shorts for any duration.
And be uncomfortable for the majority of that duration.
Be perfectly comfortable.
Maybe you've just got the perfect arse.
Yeah.
Firm,
Yeah.
padded, conditioned,
Built-in chamois.
built-in chamois, yeah.
We done with that one? Anything else to say?
Yes.
Okay, next one. Dan says, my unpopular opinion, the right tyre with a TPU inner tube makes all the farting? Yeah.
All the farting noises you could possibly want.
I was like, am I about to read farting by accident? No, it says farting. Okay. My unpopular opinion, the right tyre with a TPU inner tube makes all the farting around with sealant and tubeless tyres redundant. Most bike owners have one bike, never change a wheel or even a tyre. I'm quite techie, but I'd probably rather patch an inner tube on the bike than take off a rear wheel. And I'd certainly rather have a TPU inner tube and a slightly heavier tyre and never puncture anyway.
This reminds me of me about 6 years ago before I had a good wheel and tyre that was very compatible and worked really well. A good tubeless tyre with a wheel that works really well with it and good sealant is just faultless, absolutely faultless. And you run it at such a low pressure that it's just super comfortable as well. And I haven't had any issues. Then you learn how to plug things properly and it becomes even easier again. I'm actually at the point where I rode my bike the other day with tubes and it was stressing me out because I was like, oh my God, I'm definitely going to get a puncture because it's got a tube in it.
Wasn't there a point where you went like 3 years with no puncture?
I went a long time without punctures, yeah. And I was riding big miles then as well.
Impressive.
And one of those years was exclusively using not tubeless, tubs as well.
I've committed to tubeless now and I'm enjoying it. And I like that I don't have to take my wheel off. And I've had a few little tubeless punches. Plugs worked every time. To counter that though, we have a studio here with a rug we don't care about. Sorry, Scott. That doesn't matter if it gets covered in tubeless jizz. And not everyone has that situation at work. So it's like, if I want to mess around with a tubeless tyre, we have a workshop. So that could be an argument for the less hassle of the TPU. But TPU tubes, they're definitely easier to puncture than a butyl tube. And they only feel slightly better. And they have to be the perfect, they don't really expand to fill the space of a tyre if you're using them as an emergency. You know, so if you have they go up to 28, but you have a 30 millimeter tyre, it won't expand. It will just get tiny little punches in it, in my experience. And that can be a problem.
Well, yeah, but that's you using it in an environment it's not meant to be used
Correct.
in.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
But butyl tubes, you can do that.
Yeah,
they're versatile. Yeah. You can even put one that's slightly too, it'll get you home, you know?
Well, yeah, you can ride down a slide on a butyl tube.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think this is an unpopular opinion. I think it's just it is definitely a preference thing.
I think the TPU tube is a huge feeling upgrade that most people don't consider.
Over tubeless?
No, same as tubeless.
Yeah.
Feels the same as tubeless without having all that faffing around, but they kind of cost the same price. And you do have to, if you're not going to patch them, which they can be patched, but you have to buy the specific patch kit, you'd have to pay a lot of money to, once there's too many holes in them, you probably want a new one and it's 24 quid every time.
Okay.
Or maybe less if you're on the AliExpress ones, but I don't know if they're any good.
So we are notoriously bad for tinkering and we are constantly changing tyres, constantly changing wheels, whether they're CADE bikes or our own bikes. We're constantly fiddling. And as a result of constantly fiddling, we end up having to get sealant all over the place and it's messy and annoying. However, the other person in this room is the opposite of that.
Me?
You have run tubeless on your gravel bike for as long as you've had it, which is about 6 years.
Untrue.
Is that not true?
No, I used to have tubes in, and the reason I stopped is because I was out on a ride. I got a thorn in it, and the wheel was so muddy that I could not grab it to get I couldn't undo the wheel to get the tube out.
How long have you been running tubeless on your gravel bike for then? It's a number of years, isn't it?
A number of years.
Have you had any issues with it?
No.
Has it been messy?
Well, I wouldn't know that because I have a home mechanic to help me in the form of you.
But you've never changed the tyres. You've got the same tyres on, which is in line with this. One bike, you've never changed the wheel, you've never changed the tyre because it hasn't needed it.
I haven't had any mess or issues with it. The thing that I was told is you just have to top it up regularly and spin the wheel and use it regularly so it doesn't all pool and stuff like that. And I was told if I did that and I maintained it properly, it would be fine. And it has been fine.
And I think that is the case for a good tyre with an appropriately I can't think of the word, compatible wheel, because some tyres and wheels are not very compatible. But also the thing which I think is hugely relevant in the tubeless space is tubeless for small volume road tyres doesn't work very well. So I find, for me, what I found in my experience is that you need to be running at least a 32mm tyre with low pressure for it to work effectively. If you're running 28s or even 30s in many cases, you end up wanting to run them at like 60 PSI. And I find that PSI is too much pressure. Like we set up some tubeless tyres, they punctured, we were making a video, they punctured nearly immediately. And there was so much pressure in the tyre that it just spewed absolutely everywhere. And as a result of that, by the time it gets down to a pressure that it could seal, there's no sealant left, and then it's just a problem. So you just it's a different relationship with how you use the wheel. And I think until you get into the frame of mind of how to do that and how to have this new relationship and plug things, and it's not actually that a burden, all of a sudden tubeless is absolutely brilliant.
I think if you're running a high pressure road tyre, narrower, the dumb thing, the advice should be, as soon as you hear it's punctured, you stop and just put a plug in. You don't wait for it to attempt to seal on its own. Which some people will be, that's defeating the purpose. Well, if you're in a race, it'd be great if it could seal and you just carry on riding and not care. But really, it's stop, put a plug in, which takes 20 seconds and you don't have to take the wheel out. And then not too much, you just put your finger over it.
But you've already been absolutely caked.
A little bit.
I haven't tried to get a plug-in on a tyre at a high pressure.
Oh, it's fine.
Why didn't we do it that time then?
We didn't have a plug with us.
Oh, did we not?
Yeah. That's why that situation was so annoying. And then everyone was like, it was where we were riding the Villia with Campag. You got a puncture? And it's like, yeah, because we haven't got a plug. We'd ridden so far. We were just stuck in the middle of nowhere.
We just had to keep pumping it up.
Yeah. It was like...
But it did hold enough for us to be able to
held
get back.
enough. Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. It sealed when it got to like 20 PSI.
Yeah.
And in a lot of gravel tyres, you are running 20 PSI, so a bit more.
So are you running tubeless for road and gravel?
Pretty much everything, yeah.
But you're not running small road tyres anymore. You're running
32s.
Yeah.
30s. Even on the rim brake.
But I'm willing to bet that 30s on most of the rims that we are riding are measuring more than 30 anyway.
Mm-hmm. And I'm light.
What pressure are you running road tyres at these days?
I pump them up to 60.
Do you?
And then I let them go flatter and flatter until I go, I should probably pump them up.
I'm pumping roads to 40 these days.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm putting 30s and 32s at 40 PSI.
Super soft. Mm-hmm.
You guys are crazy.
Emily's still on 120 PSI.
Yeah. I don't get punctures because everything just goes ping off.
I remember those
a bone
days.
shaking ride. You can go for a ride in the New Forest with
Yeah,
that man.
exactly. Me and Warlard, I can't remember what his name is. Jude.
Do you have an unpopular opinion? We want to hear it. Send yours to wildonespodcast@cademedia.co.uk and you might feature on a future episode.
And don't forget, you can also send us your questions and comments for listeners' takeover, like this one from a listener who did not include their name.
It must be controversial.
But they asked, do you think it's okay to ride in team kit even if you don't ride for the team? I'm 17 and can't afford expensive gear such as Rafa, Panomal, Universal Colours, etc. So I've resorted to buying second-hand team kit from eBay. You can find a vast amount of old team kit for a third of the price of the more expensive brands. I often wear a World Tour skin suit as I find it the most aesthetically pleasing. However, I'm concerned However, I'm always conscious that people are judging me for wearing it.
Unfortunately, people are going to judge you for wearing it because some people are
Boneheads.
However, do whatever the hell you want to do. If you want to wear it, wear it. And if there's bargains to be had, get the bargains.
I think embrace it. I think it's a shame that cycling can't embrace the culture of supporting their teams by wearing their kit. And I think it should be full. Get the socks. Get everything.
Get the bike.
Get the S-Works shoes. They're only $600.
Yeah, I'm all for it. And I almost certainly will. Is there still a American Champs jersey or something behind me?
Oh, but it was not quite World Champs. I can
No,
bring
it's
you a
American
World
Champs. It's American Champs jersey with rainbow bands, and I'm definitely going to do some rides in that this summer, and it's going to trigger people, and I don't care. Have you got a World Champs jersey for me?
It's signed by lots of very high-profile riders, so I feel like wearing it and then washing it would be very bad.
I'll add my signature. I just won't wash it as well.
James.
Yeah, Jermaine. James Jermaine.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it before but we actually still get asked this question a lot about,
Because people are still judging. If anyone judges you and you know them, send me a DM. I'll make you a personalized video telling them that they're dickheads.
You really shouldn't have said that because
everyone is going to now inbox.
even if just for lols, they're you're going to get spammed hard.
No, only if your name is anonymous.
Anonymous, yeah. Oh, they got you.
Do you know his name? Do you know this person's email?
No, I know their email,
Yeah.
yes.
Anyone else? I'm on Cameo, so you can just pay me on Cameo and I'll send you a message telling anyone you want that they're a dickhead.
Are you actually on Cameo?
Yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah, I did my first ever one this
No
morning.
way.
I've been on it for 2 years. No one's ever requested me.
Well, it's Jimmy's,
Nah, it's not been 2 years.
Jimmy's 40th birthday this year, so now I know what present I'm going to get him.
Yes.
Also, I think I...
Jimmy's so disappointed. Jimmy's like, I get to Cameo from Francis every day, and it's usually a question about work. Have those new phone cases turned up yet? Jimmy's got a new phone, so I can't message him.
Yeah, he did.
He's got a new phone for his friends, and I don't have the number.
Honestly, I've been debating.
And he ends. He's like turning off my work phone for the day, and then just a
Middle finger
emoji.
I have been debating whether I want to give you my personal phone number or not. I'm not sure yet. I don't think you're ready for it.
The problem is, Jimmy, you've now announced that, Francis has announced you've now got a personal number. So anyone who doesn't have a new number from you
It's going to know.
is going to know.
Well, they should know.
They haven't made the cut.
If you haven't got my new personal number, it's because I don't want you to have it.
It's a dumb phone.
Is it a flip phone?
No, so it's actually really. Emily made this possible. So do you want to tell the story?
Nah, I can't be asked. You tell it.
Okay, cool. So it's my old iPhone. It's an iPhone 13 mini, so it's tiny for iPhone
The
standards.
size the phone should be.
Yep, correct. Although I'll show it. No, I don't actually have it with me. I'll show it to you next time, and you'll literally look at it and go like, "How do I read such a thing? It's so small." But anyway,
The Zoolander phone.
it's not. It feels like that. It was like riding 155 cranks. It just doesn't feel quite right, but I really, really like it. So Emily basically said, well, why don't we use parental controls to make it a dumb phone? So basically, I've got the stuff on it I want, so banking apps, WhatsApp, Maps, Spotify. It doesn't have emails. It doesn't have...
Social media.
no social media on it. It doesn't have an app store, so I can't add anything new to it. And if I want to change any of the things in it, then it requires my parents' passcode to be able to do so.
Which I have.
Genius.
Yeah.
So you're his master.
Yes, I guess so. And the reason we did that is we already had that phone in a drawer somewhere, didn't we?
Yeah. I had my first weekend of dumb phone life, full weekend. So no social media all weekend, no ability to just mindlessly use my phone. And it was absolutely amazing. And it was not what I thought it was going to be. What was brilliant about it is that loads of occasions through the weekend, I was like, wow, I am bored. Life is so boring.
Oh, you're in the
Loved
adjusting
it.
phase.
I loved it.
No, everything becomes less boring.
Well, no, I'm sure it does. But my point was, what I was finding is like, I've got 4 hours this afternoon and there's nothing to do. And I was like, oh, well, I suppose I could tidy a room.
Yes.
And then you do it and you go, oh, that was actually quite fun.
Yeah.
it just reframes like your relationship with stuff. And then it reminded me why old people when I was young just used to potter and would just be like really happy with pottering.
Yeah, they had the life. I was thinking about my dad. He only just like the scrolling only came in like the last year of his life.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've lived your whole life with none of that. That's really good. Although I've kind of gone through the journey now of like realized that I kind of go, ugh. If I catch myself doing it, I'm really good at like just putting it down and then just do something else. Pair some socks, put them away in a drawer. I love that kind of task.
Do you?
Yeah.
I think I'm probably on about a month of not really using social media. And what I'm finding now is I load Instagram. So I've got Instagram on the work phone if I need it for anything. So I load my Instagram and I immediately load it and go, there's nothing here for me. And I just close it straight away. Because I go, well, my notifications, well, I don't care about any of those notifications because it's just like random stuff that has no relevance. All of the messages I have are about 5 people which spam the death out of me with memes and weird little videos that I have no interest in. In fact, the only thing I do look at on Instagram now is messages from random people because it'll probably be something that's actually interesting, or they'll have a comment on one of the videos, or they'll go, some guy messaged me and said, oh yeah, this photo of you from ages ago, where did you get that shirt from? For some reason, everyone loves my Huskies shirts. So I told him where it was from. And it's actually it's become a completely different thing, and it's almost pleasant.
Yeah, mine's pretty much exclusively me and my wife sending each other these little bears. So my suggested feed is nearly completed it with just bears. And like these little bunnies that they're like friends, and I don't know what it's good though.
See, I find the algorithm wild. It's so masculine right wing. So I reset my algorithm probably a month ago. Completely
and it just goes,
reset it.
This is for man.
And I was exclusively liking, because I was spamming you with them. I was exclusively liking videos of like llamas and goats, fluffy goats, in the hope that would like start populating my algorithm. And perhaps it's because of people sending me stuff because they spam me with absolute carnage. Is now if I look at the algorithm suggested things, it's just like filth. What a horrible thing.
I was like that. You said you watched that Adolescence. That's what that's about.
That's how
isn't
people get into that, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
Kids have a problem. Yeah, I think if I have kids, we have to have a very strict situation with phone usage.
That's what they all say.
You create a barrier then, though, as well, don't you? A desire.
Good point.
It's
also an inability to use technology, which is really important for the world going forwards, or important to be able to function in the world going forwards.
I think what I have seen from the very small number of young people that I've been around is that even the ones that had technology removed from their lives for the early years are still unbelievably gifted with technology and obsessed with it. So I don't think that is actually a concern.
Good.
I think young people are always going to be gifted at technology because it is their life.
Yeah.
There's no escape from that.
Mm-hmm.
They're all
You're
going to be able to
exposed to
edit.
it in everywhere.
But anyway, I'm enjoying dumb phone life. And
Cool.
correct, you do not have my number.
Don't want it.
Is that everything?
Yeah, I guess so. That is all for this week, I guess. Thanks all for listening. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the next episode. Any other business, guys?
No. Thanks and goodbye.
Goodbye then.
Bye.
Bye.